Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collected podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hi, and welcome to TFYLP, episode 370. We are live Monday night, March 2nd, here on YouTube. Looks like Christian has his cat, and Sean is crinkling something down there. So, for our audio listeners, that's Sean. So if you have
that was
any,
muted.
oh, okay, good. So yeah, if you have any.
Stop it.
If you have any comments or concerns about that, go ahead and forward that. Did we set up a Sean specific email, Rick? Or not Rick? Oh my God, I called you Rick. Paul.
Hi, I'm Rick Alvarez, and I wear my sunglasses at night. Just kidding, it's me, Paul.
Yeah, so we got Christian, we've got Sean, and we've got Paul. Sorry for calling you Rick.
And we've got Roxy.
Roxy.
Hey, kitty.
So tonight's topic, this is actually coming from Paul. So any complaints that you want to have about tonight's topic, forward them to what's your email address there, Paul, for the show?
I mean, I guess it's probably tfylp@tftalk.net.
What's that? What's your news show? Don't you have a specific one for the TF Talk News?
Why would he know that? He doesn't host TF Talk News.
Yeah, I don't.
Mr. Starscream does that.
Whatever.
That's someone else.
That's someone else. It's a different person. So this episode is the one where Paul goes crazy, and I'm very much looking forward to it. We're talking about stand-in figures. And are they okay? Are they not okay? Are they sometimes okay? We're going to find out.
Well, I mean, they're okay.
Well,
right.
What are stand-in figures first? There's a couple different versions that we need to talk about.
I mean, I guess the blanket statement, stand-in figures is something that you're using and you're pretending it's something else. Like, oh, there's not a deluxe rung, so I'm going to use this stick figure as my deluxe rung, which is an awful example. But see, that's different. That's a custom. You know,
I was going to say. Now, what if you didn't? If the figure's not made, so then you ask your good buddy who's a customizer to make you a sweet looking rung figure. Does that count?
It does not count.
Yeah, that's not exactly what we're talking about. Like, but it's in the vein of it. Like we're talking about like taking a figure that is something else and like wedging it into a hole for one reason or another. And there's lots of reasons you would do that.
So, Paul, what inspired this topic? You want to go ahead and talk about that one and get it out of the way?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
you could save it.
But before we start that, I do have a something about that, like about customs. So I saw a guy, like this was years ago at TFCon, like TFCon 2016, right? And this guy was like, oh, I don't know if they're ever going to make a Masterpiece Minosaur. Like any third party's ever going to do it. Because it doesn't look like they're going to make this or whatever. So this guy spent like, God knows
Nostradamus over there.
Some kind of like crazy amount of money making getting these customs made for a Masterpiece scale Minosaur, right? And I'm just sitting there going like, you sweet summer child, like it's they're going to come out, like I mean, I think at that point, I can't remember, maybe it wasn't 2016, maybe it's 2018. I can't remember, but there was like multiple MP combiners already out, like just not Minosaur yet. And you're like, it's coming, man. Like, don't you worry. Like, they're all going to get made. But now, if you want it official, that's different. But, I mean, if you're good with third party, like, I mean, a major character like Minosaur, so... Anyway,
I gotta give you kudos on the summer child response. That is the right one.
Sweet summer child, huh?
I used it on myself earlier today, so my quota for that in a day is over, but I agree.
So anyway, go on to their story, Paul. Why did you want to select this topic? What has been going on lately?
Well, first off, we didn't have a topic. We were fishing for topics, and this is just the first one that rolled off my tongue. And usually, it's the things that get me heated that I'm like, "Well, let's do it about this." And
remember when I said earlier, this is the one where Paul goes crazy. So it's happening now.
No, I'm trying to not be crazy because I don't want to be the crazy guy.
Go crazy, yes.
On TFYLP, but well, because people might get offended by this sort of thing because it has to do with what you can afford and whatnot, and no one ever likes to be shamed for not being able to afford a certain figure. But that's kind of what the angle of this is. The Skywarp debacle is ongoing. All right, no one got their Siege Skywarp because of lots of stupid reasons, but it's now very, very expensive to get.
I don't understand he's so expensive. I mean, he was on sale for a very long time, right, on Amazon?
Like, yes.
Why didn't you get it?
I'll tell you why.
We want to add the caveat that we're not talking about international listeners and viewers here.
Yes,
there's a lot of issues with Skywalk overseas. We're talking about specifically the American market.
Yeah, and that's actually the international market is playing into why it's such an expensive figure, because before it was even, when it was still at its retail cost, it still cost like 70, 80, 90 bucks for someone in the Europe to get a hold of it. Because they would have had to get it from someone who was going to buy it and then ship it to England, and if there's no markup, then still you're talking like 30, 40 bucks in shipping. So yeah, it was always kind of an expensive get. But for people that had it that had it readily available, the reason they didn't get it is because there's been we're in that cycle. We were on the bottom end of that cycle where nothing sells out and it always clearances. All right, this is like I call it like a 5 to 7 year cycle in Transformers, and now we're coming back up. We hit the bottom, and now stuff is selling out, and it's happening very quickly, actually. So Skywarp was obviously a high demand character, and the set wasn't too bad. It was like the 3 Battle Masters, And I think literally everyone's like, $50, too much. I'll wait for it to clearance on Black Friday. They're trying to be all savvy. Well, guess what? They just killed the listing on Black Friday. Everything else that they couldn't sell very well, like, bottomed out. Like the 3-pack and the Autobot 2-pack of G2 Sideswipe and Slam Dance. Like, all those things had a big discount on Black Friday because they didn't sell as well as Skywarp. And I'm still not sure Skywarp is sold out because they literally just destroyed the listing, ceased to exist. I think Amazon's like, whoa, we have a hot toy. Let's not discount that. Let's just turn it off for a while. But regardless, now the only people selling it are third-party sellers, aftermarket sellers on Amazon. And the price has gone up to like 250, I think is the top I've seen actually sell. And you had, I don't know, from July till November to pick this up.
Yep, 4 months at retail cost.
So everyone missed it. And I think most of the people that missed it expected to get it for cheap. And that just did not happen in this case.
I heard a rumor that it was going to go back on sale on like March 4th. Like, it'd be complete, like, just complete
Look, man,
BS.
There have been rumors that it's going back on sale on January 17th, January 31st, February 13th, March 3rd. It's not coming back.
Yeah.
It's over.
Well, I don't know. I think it still might, but it's only going to be there for like a day when it happens. They have some more stock, is my guess. And it's only because they killed the listing, which is they selectively chose to take it off of sale on Amazon, which is weird, but it happens. It's like Red Wing. Red Wing had a final date. It even said so on Target's website, available until I don't know what it was. It was like November or something, and then it came back, and now it's actually sold out. Now it's actually gone. But
so why is Skywarp a big deal for stand-ins?
Okay, Skywarp is a big deal for stand-ins because we just got the Hotlink set announced for Walmart for I think $40. So it's like 2 Battlemasters and a Voyager, which equates to about $40. That's fair. It's actually a better deal than the Amazon set because there was only one other Battlemaster, and I think they made it $50. So like that extra $5 was like an exclusive tax essentially. And so Hotlink is a very purple-looking Seeker. It's closer to say like the Rainmakers in style. It's like pretty much all purple, and it has like some battle damage stuff on it. But since it's purple, everyone's like, "Oh, I'm just going to get Hotlink, and it's going to be my Skywarp. That's my plan," because they missed the Skywarp. And sure, that's fine and good, but it's not Skywarp. It's just not. You can pretend all day, every day. That's fine, but it's just not going to be that. I mean, and it only and in your head it can be. That's called headcanon. You can do whatever you want. But as soon as like you tell someone else about it or you show it to someone else, and like, have you ever seen someone's collection? And they're like, "Oh yeah, that's my stand-in for blah 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 blah." And have you ever seen that? Anyone ever done that? Yeah. Maybe you guys don't hang out with other collectors. I don't know.
I was gonna say, some of us have had stand-ins in the past, so.
We'll talk about various other types of stand-ins. We'll get to that.
It's funny that people always like point it out. They like want to tell you right away. They're like, "Oh yeah, that's my stand-in for blah 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 blah," and it's just kind of weird. I don't know why that's the way people do it, but they do. And I just think it's funny because you don't. It's like they're scared. It's almost like in those situations that I've been in, it's like they want to preface it. They don't want you to like call them out on it beforehand. So maybe I have weirder interactions with collectors than other people, but
I think that's absolutely true.
Are there any universally accepted stand-ins? Like for the Transformers Prime line, the Dark Energon line, the Wheeljack was the stand-in for I can't remember his name right now.
Slicer, right?
Slicer, yep. And then
Starscream was like Skywarp.
Skywarp, yeah,
right?
Because he was black and purple and clear. So, I mean, was that universally accepted or acceptable?
I think so. But there actually was a Skywarp from Japan, and it was like legit Skywarp.
Yeah,
it wasn't half clear, weird Skywarp.
Yeah, he said Skywarp on the box.
See, that's what matters. It's what's on the box. What do you got to say, Lucas? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think that there's a lot of different branching, of this topic. I think we can go into third party and masterpiece and all that too. But I mean, I think it's one of those things. I think as a collector that where you can't get to that point in your collection, or it's a huge regret. Like the Skywarp one, like I can just imagine the collector is like to where it just really gets to them that they could have had the Skywarp, but they're waiting because they're like, "Oh, I'm going to be so smart. I'm going to wait for it to go on clearance," and then it sells out. And so, and I think that, you also see this in like third party as well, where, it did kind of the same thing that you were talking about, where for the longest time, like you didn't have to pre-order anything and like everything just ended up going on clearance. So it's like all these people were like, "Oh, well, I'm just going to pick it up like secondhand or whatever." And now you see, some figures that just go for crazy money. But then I think the other side of the coin to that with the stand-in stuff too is like scalpers and whatever, like the price on the Skywarp, where people are like buying stuff up to speculate and whatever too.
I mean, there's also like a lot of it has to do with the way you collect. I know a lot of people were using Gundog, right? And I would hear it a lot. And you hear Rob say this a lot. You know, like, oh, that's my stand-in hound until there's a MP hound. Like, I've heard him say that many times.
Let's talk about that, because I know I've done that. Lucas, you've done that too, where there is no official hound. There's an official hound now, but back when you and I were both in Masterpiece, there was no hound. So my goal was to get a Masterpiece Autobot arc cast, season 1 cast, and I couldn't do that officially. So I had stand-ins in the form of, Make Toys Downbeat, Make Toys Gundog. What else did I have? You could do the X-Transbox Windcharger thing, and I did that, and I got them all very quickly. But at the end of it, I realized that none of it actually fit together, and that's what made me get out of Masterpiece. But you could absolutely say those were stand-ins for official figures that didn't exist. And I think that's a bit different, but it's a branch of what we're talking about here.
Well, if you want to talk about figures not fitting together, I mean, like the older Masterpiece and newer Masterpiece, so some of those don't fit together that well. But yeah, I mean, I think that third-party companies like KFC and X-Transbots have like made a killing off of stand-ins, because like they've seemed to have really picked some of the characters that like nobody else did, and so there's a lot of that where people are like, oh, this is the only whatever, like the only Blitzwing, like the only G1 Blitzwing or something like that, and it is a crap figure, and it's a crap figure, but you're like, dang it, like I want a G1 Blitzwing on my shelf. I don't want to wait for whatever other company to release it, and so you end up getting that one for now, and then you hope to flip it later on.
Like, Transformers fans are so impatient when it comes to like, oh, Takara will never do that. This company, If every Transformer ever was in Masterpiece all at once, no one could afford it. It would be like $15,000 to have that collection all at once. I mean, there's a reason it trickles out over time. It's just impossible. It's not logistically possible to have everything at once, and so no one's patient enough to be like, just leave the hole in your collection until it is able to be filled. That's what that's what I would do if I had to get a stand-in for one thing or another. I just leave the hole to like remind me all the time, like, hey, I got to fill that. That's for me to fill someday.
There's definitely a point to be had there, but for my Masterpiece goal when I was doing that, the time just became too much. I mean, between Sideswipe, which was the reboot, or MP10 and Sideswipe, which was the reboot, and I guess Inferno, that's like 9 years. And 9 years to get 3 or 4 of the art crew out, that wasn't enough for me. And so I kind of accepted that Takara would never get them all out in the same style, and gave up on that goal and went to get it in classic stuff instead. Much easier goal.
Well, yeah, because for the same amount of money it costs to get all those Masterpiece toys, you can get the whole line that comes out a lot faster. They are able to produce a lot more at a lower cost in a shorter amount of time when it's not a highly intricate, super complex figure. I don't know, but Sean, what do you got about stand-ins? What do you think? This is crazy talk?
No. Whenever we're talking about Hound, alternators came to mind, and Alternity and all that. So yeah, like Hound, like Alternators Hound was a stand-in for Hound for Masterpiece, and Alternity Cliff Jumper. He was a stand-in for Masterpiece Cliff Jumper, because we don't have a Masterpiece Cliff Jumper. This is before the third parties just came out with theirs, but yeah, I mean, he fits the size. He has the look. He's a real car. He's shiny and he looks good, and he's about the right height. So that was my. He didn't look like the cartoon, of course, but yeah, he was there in the background.
I'm glad you brought up alternators, because like those were the original stand-ins, because all we had was Masterpiece Optimus.
Mm-hmm.
And those alternators were amazing. People just have forgotten that, like it was dust in the wind, but like those were amazing, and they came out kind of at a good clip. Mm-hmm. Like you could get four new ones in a wave at that time. And I saw that
too, right?
Those alternators, it's incredible. Like, you'll never see that again. Like, I don't even know, like, how did they get those figures out at that price point at the time? Like, is it just that they had enough sponsorship from, like, the car companies or something? Like, it makes no, like just the amount of materials that they had in those figures for, because what was it? Was it $20 at the time?
$20. $20 an alternator.
I mean,
deluxe.
Like,
it's a deluxe now. You're right.
You can get Clip Jumper for $20 now. He's tiny.
So
I don't know how many today dollars, $20,004 are,
but I know, like, for myself, like, so when I first got into Masterpiece, like, this was, God, what year was it? I can't remember.
It's when MP10 came out.
No.
2012.
It would have been, I guess it would have been around there. Like, something like that. So at the time, like, Takara had not done any re-releases on a lot of their Masterpieces. And so, like, I had no idea. Like, I'm like, is Sideswipe ever going to come back out? Is, like, a bunch of those, like, original cars that had come out, like, that it's subsequently sold out. Like, I didn't know if I was going to be able to get it, and I didn't want to pay the markup on the secondary market for them. And so that's where I got a knockoff. Like, I'm like, oh, hey, look, it's a knockoff Sideswipe that I can get for $25. And, like, instead of, paying, like, some crazy price or whatever. So I actually, like, what originally got me into Masterpiece at the time is I got a bunch of knockoff cars. So I got some I got all the legitimate ones that were out, like, that I could get at the time. But then any of the ones that I had to go back, like Tiger Track and Sideswipe and some of those ones, and Red Alert, like, all of that mold, I got knockoffs. And then once they re-released them, I sold the knockoffs, and then I got the legit ones. But
there's a couple of cool ones, like that gold painted Sideswipe mold. That one was cool.
It's oversized too, right?
No, it was regular size.
Sergio
make a
had
distinction there, because there's a difference to me, and I don't know if there's a difference to everybody, but there's a difference to me between a knockoff of a thing that you can get, like it's possible to obtain. Like a knockoff of the first knockoff I got was Tiger Track, because I wanted to get a cheap way to see if I would like the new version of Masterpiece, because I had MP1 and 5 and 3 prior to that, and I was like, well, they've rebooted it, will I like it? Let's kind of see what this is about. So I got a knockoff Tiger Track. That was a figure I could have gotten readily, but I didn't want to pay that much for it, and I didn't want to pay what Sideswipe was commanding at the time, because I had a classic Sideswipe that I liked. No big deal. I think there's a difference between getting something that you could get officially, it just costs more, and getting something like that gold Sideswipe you mentioned that does not exist officially. To me, there's a difference there. And I think it's important to make that distinction. And I'll make it again later.
Well, I mean, yeah, but the Hot Link Skywarp thing is a very specific, narrow instance.
Oh, yeah.
And I think to officially tackle that specific subject, we needed to, like, prepare. and we're not. I think we're just going to loosey-goosey talk about all the different ways that stand-ins can be. Like, bring up what you just said. William in the chat just said, do knockoffs count as stand-ins? I think they can.
In Lucas's instance, he said they did.
right.
Like the oversized Grimlock. I mean, that's a good stand-in for a good-sized Grimlock for Masterpiece.
But that's standing in for something that doesn't exist, right?
Yeah, like, it's not really a stand-in.
Grimlock exists, but he's just way too small.
But a big old Grimlock doesn't exist.
It's totally different. It's a totally different thing. It's just like, hey, this is Grimlock. The other one isn't now. Or maybe it's the same. Fuck.
Exactly. I talked to Serge on his way home today. He couldn't make the show tonight, but he did give me a couple of notes to talk about. And we went in circles on this. And one that he and I both have, for similar reasons, is, I think it's called THF, some knockoff company, The Plum. No one knows what The Plum is. It's Dark of the Moon Deluxe Leadfoot, which technically he and I could both get. It did come out in Japan, kinda. I think didn't it come out in Hasbrosia? Didn't they release it barely?
I think there's only prototypes that exist with the Target logo on it.
With the Target logo, yes, but the one with no logo they did release, kind of.
I don't know.
Small
I was like drunk during most of that time in my life.
So he and I both got the Plum because there's no way realistically that he and I could get Leadfoot for under $300, and that's just not what we're willing to pay for a deluxe, especially that mold. It's not very good. But the distinction that he and I made there was that neither he nor I pretend that's Leadfoot. Like if someone came over and was like, "Oh, you've got a Leadfoot," we'd be like, "Yeah, look, it's Leadfoot." We'd say, "No, that's the Plum." Actually, he and I have a joke about it, so it'd be the Plum. It's not important. If he was here, we would explain it to you. He's not, so I'm not going to. But it's not Leadfoot. We're not using it as a stand-in. We're filling the hole, but it's not standing in for us to eventually get that real figure. Because
There's a Human Alliance Leadfoot, right?
There is.
And he's a good size.
He's too big for the deluxes.
Well, I mean, sometimes people have very specific needs for their niche of their collection. Like they want all deluxes of of characters, that should be that size, and so there's maybe a Voyager, or there's just no character or no toy of X and X character, so they'll take a knockoff or something and wedge it into that niche that they need filled. It's like no one would have thought, oh, we need like Hasbro we have Rung, but it's not deluxe Rung. It's a little tiny thing, so people might be like, that's not good enough. It's like,
so they use like animated Prowl or something.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sometimes people use animated figures, for instance, to like go in with their classic stuff, and it's hard. They can see past it, but like if you show it to anyone else that's thinks that those are very differing aesthetics, like it seems like you're taking crazy pills or something when they show it to you.
Well, we want to talk about crazy pills. Let's talk about official stand-ins, and then we'll go back to the hot link thing. So official stand-ins, there's two instances that I know of. The first is really easy. In all of the Masterpiece Beast Wars promotional materials, you see Masterpiece Optimus Primal, Masterpiece Megatron, Masterpiece Cheetor, Generations Rhinox, and Rat Trap. Because there are no Masterpiece figures for them. So they use them in official photography and official displays at conventions to represent stand-ins for Masterpiece characters that don't exist. That's pretty interesting.
Well, they did the same thing with the RC as well, because they didn't have a cup and a blur, and so they had to throw in a Springer, and so they had to throw in all the Generations figures into the background of the Masterpiece figures. So yeah, so I guess there you go. I guess if Takara's doing it, it's the cool thing to do, right?
I mean, what were those bad decisions though? I mean, like they all they looked good to me. Not that, like, to me, it's like, hey, these might come down the road and they look good in this particular display. It's not like a sin against humanity that they did that.
If you squint, it works. If you look from far away, like all the pictures we got, it's fine.
Is it any different? Is it any different than Hotlink or whatever, right?
Well, yeah, because that's
Blur. I mean, I guess the figure doesn't exist.
They didn't put Blur in there and say
LG Blur.
Yeah,
they're not pretending LG Blur is Masterpiece Blur.
I can't remember. Have they had any instances of official like throwing in a third party as a stand-in? Like I swear that there's been some instances where they didn't realize it. Like it goes up on Facebook or Instagram, and they're like, "Oh crud!" Like, "Oops, we didn't mean to accidentally share that like Toy World Devastator, whatever it may have been in the background." You know?
It was I think it was Green Giant that made it in.
Yeah.
Well, and the Predacons in that Earth Wars game are like based on one of the third-party versions. I think
the MMC.
The designers actually said that they've come out and said that for real, that it's based on those. It's like, oh, okay, good job, I guess. The other crazy pills stand-ins that we got, and it's been a minute since we got any of them, but the entire Shattered Glass toy line is stand-ins. They're all repurposed figures from other current lines or sometimes older lines to represent the evil or good, morality switched version of those characters.
Yeah, that really blurred the lines a little bit.
Did. Those were called repurposes. That's kind of the name that the fandom came up with for at the time. But they're standing in as characters they weren't released as.
I feel like that's somewhat innocent because it's like a retcon, but it's like a retcon everyone enjoys. Like what was one of them that even the wiki points this out on certain toys? Like, hey, this was repurposed as blah 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 in Shattered Glass. So
the movie Target Scout Air Raid, it's kind of green with a digital camo pattern. That's Shattered Glass Starsaber. Okay. Doesn't seem like Starsaber to me, but hey, there he is. He's in a story, he's in some art where he is Shattered Glass Starsaber.
So if we just call something a repurpose rather than a stand-in, it's okay, right?
I think it depends on who calls it a repurpose rather than a stand-in. Because that was an official avenue, not just some dude in the basement. Now, the official avenue may have been, in fact, some dude in their basement coming up with crap.
Hey, just because you don't have a basement out where you live doesn't mean it's bad to have a basement.
But I also don't have an
not
official
basement shame here.
Yeah, as I say, what's wrong? What's wrong with dudes in basements here?
I'm in a basement.
Right, there's nothing wrong with that.
Y'all are crazy. I don't have a basement.
Yeah.
But I also rent, so.
Well, I guess, Christian, that just shows with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah. I mean,
and we've had some poor responsibility in the past.
Yep. Wow. Calling them out.
Maybe. Oh my! I have no.
So that's Shattered Glass. Shattered Glass is stand-ins, but in an official capacity. Those the masterpiece displays and product shots using Generations figures. That's stand-ins in official capacity for figures that don't exist. Where is the distinction? We talked about knockoffs being used as replacements for figures you can't get. Knockoffs being used for figures that don't exist. There's a difference to be had there. So where does that leave us on Hot Link and Skywarp? Why is it so egregious to use that as a stand-in?
Someone else want to answer that for?
Because Hot Link is a whole different character. Just because they look the same doesn't mean that they're the same. Okay, you can't just assume that okay, Hot Link now wave my magic wand at you. Now you are Skywalker.
So what we have to do is we have to hope that Hasbro goes back and retcons Hot Link as Skywarp, and then it'll be okay. So somehow in the cartoon, if Hot Link turns into Skywarp, then
well, that'd be different. That's a different story.
Different. Why is that different? It's just weird. It's a thing that Anna accuses me and Lucas of doing all the time when talking to her. She gets mad at us for having to use specific terms. Like if she says Armada Omega Supreme, and I'm like, no, there is no Omega Supreme in Armada. It's an Energon figure. She's like, whatever, you know what I meant. It's like, well, not really.
No, Anna.
It's not the same thing. So she gets mad at us for using specific terms, and I think.
What's the
going back and saying that?
What was the one Seeker that you kept getting mad at her about, Christian? The Banana Storm one?
Oh God, Nova Storm! Stop it. A whole show about that.
Here's the thing. Or go ahead, Sean.
That's not Nova Storm. That's Sunspot.
Sunstorm.
No,
Sunstorm.
Don't do this, Sean.
It's definitely not Sunstorm. Am I just stand in for Sunstorm?
What is that?
That's a horse's ass.
Yeah, but it has. Is that a transformer?
Yeah.
It's a mock kick, man. You ever had a mock kick? They have
but it has. What is that thing?
Yeah, mock kick is wild.
Whoa! Yeah. It has hair.
Flip the hair, Sean. Flip it. It's got realistic pony hair.
Mm-hmm.
I might just get that.
There you go.
Now,
Here's the thing,
this.
this Hot Links Skywarp thing is a product of like the past week and a half, okay? And it's gonna go away because as soon as the show comes out, and you've already seen Hot Link in the show, like in the trailer, he's like speeding away as a jet. You can tell it's him. He's probably gonna have like some awesome line or something that he does, and everyone's like, "Oh, I love Hot Link." And they're like, "Oh, that's Hot Link now. That's not Skywarp. That's definitely not Skywarp because." Right now, Hot Link is a nobody character, so they don't mind, disgracing his name and discarding it and calling him Skywarp. But I think when the show comes out, we will see, and if he's prominent at all, there will now be Hot Link fans out of nowhere, and it'll basically negate the stand-in thing for him.
It'll solve itself.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I can bitch.
Well, I mean,
and I'm sure that we're going to get an Earthrise Skywarp as well, too, right? Like at some point. I mean, maybe not, but I mean, what are the odds that Hasbro's not going to repaint stuff? Come on.
I'd say they're pretty good. If not in Earthrise, they might just reuse the mold in the next one. I mean, why wouldn't they? Or they'll do a Netflix version of Earthrise and have like, oh, it's that Thundercracker guy and Nacelle and all these guys that you wanted.
Ooh, Nacelle, that'd be great.
Someone in the chat said they want him, so
whenever
Good.
we're
I agree
talking
with that person
about
in the chat.
we're talking about official stand-ins, and one just came into mind. How about in the movie, the actual movies? How about them calling Starscream Blitzwing in the Bumblebee movie?
that's
How about that?
a whole other
Explain that one.
painful experience. I mean, I blame Hollywood on that stuff, but
You're right, though. That's clearly a Starscream design.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I mean, but Michael Bay he was still producing the movie, right?
No.
Or was he not out? Was
Yes.
it all Travis Knight? I thought he was still producing.
Bay
He's
Pictures
producing.
was like the fourth listed thing on the credits.
So
That's Michael Bay Pictures.
So if Michael Bay does enough random Transformer designs, eventually one of them will look like a G1 design. Right?
I mean, I've come to terms with that's Blitzwing to me. It was just like that 3-month period where all we had was the teaser trailer where everyone was like just crying in their pillow because it was so amazing that there was a cool ass Starscream, and then the rug was ripped out from us.
But I bet that happened though, just because of the way it happened in the movie, where he ended up dying pretty quickly, and so I'm guessing
Spoilers.
that's probably whatever. If you haven't seen the movie yet.
Well, it's either that or that there was a pre-existing live-action Starscream, or
Well,
some
Starscream was
combination
in
of
the
that.
movie too, right? In like the very beginning of the movie.
Wasn't he?
Yeah,
Wasn't
yeah,
it?
he was.
So
He has a
that's-
different head.
Yeah. So
Oh,
that's
well,
probably part
good
of
for
it as
him then.
well.
See, if that had actually been Starscream and he got killed by Bumblebee in the beginning, I would probably be in Camp Reboot, but I'm not.
So there you go.
That's a whole other show.
It is.
So stand-ins, do we like them if they're official? Do we like them if you don't share them? Do we like them if they are generally accepted? Do we not like them under any circumstances? Do we still hate knockoffs? Do we hate certain knockoffs over others? There's a lot of gray area in this topic that we talked about.
It's yes, no, no.
So one thing I'd like to talk about is just
It's a really great show.
stand-ins. Like I still don't have a complete like Lost Light shelf, and I can't get a good one going. Like I can get one that is like mixed between different companies, official and third party and whatever, right? But it's like MMC is not giving me all the characters. Iron Factory is not giving me all the characters. Hasbro's not giving me all the characters. And so it's like I had to have this like hodgepodge between various companies to like get my Lost Light shelf, and it's still not something. Again, this is something I guess, like as Paul said, if it all came out at once, like, you know, I probably get bored of it and be, you know, sell it all and be done collecting, whatever. But like, it annoys me that I can't get all of the Lost Light characters together that I want to have, and now especially that Lost Light is done, that comic is done, I'm very worried that I'm not going to get all the characters, you know, that I actually want for the shelf that I want.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a problem, because you can't make an IDW shelf, but it's like one of the most common collections these days for like Transformers collectors our age, I would say. They're like, oh, here's my IDW shelf, blah, 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 and everyone's is different. There's no ones that has like the same characters in it, because it was never made that way. Like, it was never made to be collected that way. It's kind of like our own, our own self-delusional collection goal that can't be done. You almost have to go third party for that, except a few specific figures in the Thrilling 30 era line.
Right.
Like I would say, there's a Swerve that's kind of, and the Swerve and Skids and Brainstorm. Those are like meant to look like that. And it's funny because I had a conversation with someone at Toy Fair last weekend where the reason that happened is way less glamorous than you think. It's like when the designers are, this is someone that knew a designer at Hasbro at the time, and they said when they were sending art to Karatomi, like, these are the characters we want to do, they just, at the time, they were taking like the profile shots from More Than Meets the Eye and just being like, oh, this is Skids and this is Swerve. And there was just the art they chose to put in the deck to send to Karatomi happened to be the IDW Milne designs for some of them. And that's why it kind of like bled into the toy. It wasn't like very specific, like, oh, we're doing that IDW guy because he looks so awesome, yada, yada, yada. We've never had the IDW toy line. And that is something I really feel like Hasbro dropped the ball on. They had all those awesome assets to make something cool out of. And if they just had done like, hey, we're going to do a 20-figure special line outside of Generations, this is the IDW collection, how awesome would that have been? And then that would be what you want to complete, is that collection. And it would have been all aesthetically similar and really cool.
Well, at the same time, it was like a double-edged sword, because the fact that there wasn't a toy line means that, like, they could kill off whatever character they wanted to kill off. He could do whatever he wanted, because they just, they threw Roberts, like, here's all the, characters that we're not going to do toys of. Have at it. Whereas if they would have done the toys, they would have probably had to introduce characters at certain points or, whatever in the comics when he's not actually ready to tell the story that he's ready to tell. So that's the thing. But I think it's interesting. I had no idea that was the reason why we got some of the designs we got, that they just shipped off Milne's designs to Takara.
It was like just a fluke that it happened, and like, no one really wants to know that's the reason. And, you can't confirm this story. It's a secondhand from secondhand at this point. Right. But if you think about it, it's like, oh, wow, that's how corporate America works, right? It's just the shit rolls downhill and no one pays attention as it goes. But we got some awesome toys out of it. Because, it's weird that some of the figures ended up looking very, very More Than Meets the Eye, and others not even close. So take it with grain of salt.
Yeah, Brainstorm, Swerve, Tailgate, Skids. That's the IDW collection right there. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's why they are smart with the new comic to actually take the legit toy designs that they have, and the same thing with the Netflix show. Like, they're actually taking those toys, so that way it's like, here, it's cartoon accurate now. Like, the toys that you have. So I actually think that's a good decision. Like, I don't necessarily like the new comics, but at least the designs are accurate to the toys that we're getting.
All 6 episodes.
Well, I think it will be interesting to see how that plays out, because that will affect people's desire to collect Siege, and especially those Netflix specific toys. Like suddenly you might want the Chromia out of nowhere. Everyone's like, oh my God, I got to have the Chromia with the dirt on it. Give it to me. Which right now, no one cares. No one cares.
They're going to make Skywarp like a main character in that watch.
Oh, that'd be cruel.
That'd be good.
I mean, at the same time, you gotta know it's okay to collect the way you want. It's your collection. They're your toys. You can take all the crazy pills you want, and you can call RC Elita 1, and you can say this is Elita 1 on my shelf, but on my shelf it will be what it says on the box. So as long as we're not roommates, we don't have to worry about anything.
As long as you throw away the box, you can call it whatever you want.
Oh.
I do feel like, though, as a collector, if there is something, at least from my own personal experience, like, if I get something as a stand-in when I could have had the legit one, it's always going to gnaw at me. And I feel like eventually, like, it's just a poor financial decision because eventually I'm going to get that other one, and I'm going to hate it. Like, that's where I think that where you had mentioned, Paul, about the collectors that where they point it out right away. And that they do that because it's just gnawing at them that they could have had whatever legitimate, like, whatever one they really wanted, and, like, instead they had that one. So, again, that's a personal choice. It's your own collection. So, for you, like, you might like that, but then there's a lot of other collectors that, if it for you personally that you could have had X figure but you settled for Y figure instead, like it's just never going to work out, I feel like, for you, and nobody else gives a shit. It's not like any other collectors are going to care. Like, your wife's not going to care. It's not like your wife's like, can you believe it that I can't believe you got that stand-in? But
yeah, you're in bed at night, she's like, I really just can't believe you bought Hot Link. What are you thinking? That is
what
a purple
kind of
guy.
Man are you?
Oh gosh. It's also funny when people use stand-ins that like totally are the wrong size class amongst the other figures that they are trying to stand it in with. I know I've seen it a bunch of times, but I try to ignore these things, so I
Alternator side swipe as Masterpiece side swipe. I've seen that.
But that's the thing is like when all of these people complain about the smaller size of the newer Transformers and whatnot, right? Like, at least all the stuff's in scale. Like, so previous to this, if I wanted a Soundwave or like a Blaster or whatever it may be, right? Like, if you're throwing in that like leader class size, Soundwave into your collection with a bunch of Voyagers, like, it's just not going to look right. So at least now I can have a Voyager Soundwave that looks good with the rest of the line. It looks, like everything matches. So I don't know. From that standpoint, like, that's where I love the new line, that it actually is giving us a similar aesthetic and, style and whatnot to the figures.
I want to bring up Anna again because the way she collects, she will never have stand-ins. Like, Lucas, you just mentioned the scale thing, and it's something that you and I argue with Anna about all the time. Anna doesn't care about scale. She'll put a Legends figure next to a Masterpiece figure, next to a Siege figure, and they're all different characters, and they all go together for her display, and she puts them in her weird Anna poses, and she loves it. She doesn't have stand-ins because she doesn't care about the scale of anybody. And, maybe we're all the fools for, trying to make it all work. She just enjoys her toys because they're toys.
She knows Transformers isn't about scale, so there's that.
Maybe we're all on a fool's errand.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dragon.
Try to make it all work.
Scale is a dragon you'll be chasing forever, like, just, it's never going to happen.
You got to have the right one. You got to have the right hoist. And Anna's just like, I want a hoist that doesn't have stupid arms, and none of them do, but she thinks they do. And that's her dragon.
That's fine. Again,
see us on Microcasters tomorrow for that.
The only reason she even talks to anyone about her collection is because she's on the show. It's not like she's going day in, day out, showing other people all her stuff. It's like she can have her opinions, and she's choosing to share them.
Maybe she brings a box of them to school and shows everybody. She could do that.
Can confirm that does not happen.
See?
And all of us share our opinions and stuff because we're on the show.
Yeah.
I think we've all had a time in our lives when we've been alone collecting.
Maybe that's the thing. It's the random dude on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram that like tells me like I'm just gonna get Hotlink instead, and I'm like, that's the voice I give him in my head because I don't know who Charles 86.5 is, and I'm just like, who are you, man? And it just bothers me. I don't know, and it shouldn't because obviously I'm a grown man. I think I am.
Look, we all collect children's toys, so how much of grown men are we really?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh.
I just bought shells for my bots. So.
Heck yeah! Welcome to the club.
I'm trying to get a gumball machine for mine to put them in those. Put them in those little pots.
You
put them in the.
Show me some of those that you're looking at. You should.
You that's what you guys need to do. Like those machines that are outside of stores, like where you put a quarter in, and you get the, for like your kids and whatnot. You totally you should get that, Christian. Get that in your display.
I might.
Just
fill it up
with
with
bot
bot
because people are gonna be putting quarters in there, taking all your bots for a quarter each.
Well, see,
here's the interesting thing. I've got all of my bots on the wall now. I'm sure you guys have all seen them before, but there they are over in the corner.
Pretty.
I took a door off in my apartment to make that happen. Anyway, so in the bots group, I typically sell mine for about $2 a piece, which is not how much all of them are worth. Some of them are more. Some of them are less.
That's very fair, beyond fair.
I think that's about average. All those bots on the wall at $2 a piece. That's well over $500 bots on the wall.
Our wives might be listening. Okay.
Hey, I'm a single guy bashing it up over here. I can do what I want.
Bala,
Anyway,
bala.
Not to flex my bots. I'm just saying that we spend unnecessary amounts on toys. So how grown up can we really be?
Is that how you get the girls back to your place? You're like, hey, do you want to come over and check out my bots collection?
There's like 12 bots here, bro.
Check out my latest girl story in the TFYLP after hours after this episode.
What? I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yeah, definitely check it out.
We getting X-rated in the after hours? I didn't know that.
It's not X-rated.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, if you're not a Patreon, go ahead and sign up because it'll be a good story.
This is a wild story.
Can you? Well, wait. Yeah, we want to get people to sign up for the Patreon so they can listen to After Hours. I think you need to give like a 2 or 3 sentence like lead in to we're fishing for new patrons here. This might be good.
All right. So the lead in. Christian's had some trouble getting dates for the past couple years. Finally, someone shows interest, and it is way more than Christian bargained for.
Whoa.
There
Tune in tonight for $1 and you can hear the rest. Actually, that's good for you, Christian. I can't wait to hear this.
On the TFYLP confessionals.
It was good for me. That's as much as I can say right now.
Good.
He's blushing. It'll be a good one.
What's this? So I guess my take on stand. I don't think we're done, but I just want to get this out before we forget. So I guess for me, I would never. I have one stand-in I will talk about. I will bring up, and it's kind of this like what Lucas showed originally, that rung, and I'll finish the story with that. But I guess if I would never do stand-ins. I'd just leave the gap in my collection, knowing to remind myself someday. It might be 10 years down the road. I'm patient. I've been in this since I was 4 years old. So it's okay for me to wait. I think part of collecting is not the initial satisfaction of needing to fill the hole. It's having the hole, and someday you can fill it. It's the chase, and I like that. Not everyone does. That's just. I've been in it so long that's how I've sort of. That's the result of 30 years of. That's late stage transformerism, as I like to call it.
The waiting game.
Yeah, but so one time I got a lucky draw toy, a lucky draw Starscream that I'm never gonna open, But I decided, I might have told this story like last year, but like I decided I wanted to get a custom made of it, and I wanted it to be as authentic as possible. And I sent a guy the right toy, and he chromed it, and he sent it back to me. I still haven't even opened the custom he made, but someday I will, and so I'll put it in my shelf. When I have my collection finalized, how I want to do it someday, I will take it out and I'll have it, and that will be my stand-in. And I know people are going to ask about it because it's a freaking lucky draw, and I'm going to be able to say, I'm going to tell them, oh yeah, that's a custom I got made and it's for the toy I actually already own that I will never take out of the box because it's too rare. So it's hypocritical, I guess, but like that's my one stand-in that I will have. Instead, I would rather have like the light shining down on nothing, and people are like, "What's gonna go there?" And I'll be like, "Oh, just you wait. Someday I will have it, whatever it is."
I think that's still a question of intention, though, because you're not pretending that it is the lucky draw. That's not the intent.
Yeah, and I mean it's a special case. It's like not a lot of people. That's not like a common procedure. I think that particular stance I took. I mean, what I also wanted to bring up the repurposing. Something that's different about that is suddenly those toys that were almost like had no place in anyone's collection, like those weird movie redecos that didn't really fit anywhere. I would say FunPub did a good job of picking those out and being like, hey, let's take that and make it into something. And suddenly there's a demand for that weird toy that was like a total stinker.
Yeah, tell that to the puzzled rat shop I've been trying to buy for the last year. There aren't any. I can't buy it.
Well, if I see one, I will tell it that.
I think in general, I think stand-ins, to me, and I could be completely wrong, I feel like a lot of times if you're newer to collecting, that you're more likely to have stand-ins at that point, just because you haven't been able to come across the figure as much, so like those of us, like, I don't know, I know like Don and people have had this argument where they're like, why are we getting a new Sunstreaker? Like, we had a classic Sunstreaker 13 years ago. Like, that's my Sunstreaker, or just whatever it may be. So I think that a lot of times that, like, the people like us that, like, if you've been collecting for 20 years or whatever, you're like, hey, you know what? I've been collecting for 20 years. Maybe, whatever, 20 years from now, like, if I got to wait that long for, that character, that's fine. Whereas I think if it's somebody, like, if you're newer, like, you set up your goal in your head and you're like, I want, this shelf, or I want this, I have this collecting goal. And then you have a tendency where you're like, I want to meet this goal, like, right away. And it's not something to, whereas I feel like when you're newer, it's all about the destination. And when you've been in it for a while, it's more about the journey than it is about the destination, if that makes sense.
That was well put.
I'll take it. Lucas Bachman for 100. Trebek.
There you go. God, Jeopardy's over. Like, how horrible is that?
What?
It's done.
They quit?
Well, I mean, like,
first Pete Buttigieg and now Jeopardy.
I don't think Jeopardy is that. Yeah. They're not continuing without Trebek, right?
God,
I'm not 100 years old. I don't watch Jeopardy.
Dude,
my valedictorian in my high school was on Jeopardy, and she made it like 3 episodes. Way to go, Amy!
I'll take swords for 500.
Yes.
Anal bum covers. That's album covers.
So, yeah, no, Trebek has late stage cancer, so he is, like, they went through the last, I can't remember when the last episodes were. It wasn't that long ago, but yeah, no, it's an institution. So, anyway,
I clearly need to crawl out of my basement more often because I didn't know about that.
Yeah. But moving on, do we have? I don't know if Jeopardy's done or not. So I know that Trebek's not going to be on anymore. That they had their final stuff. So anyway, do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap on stand-ins in the collection that you guys want to add? Or
I do have one stand-in. It's my my KO sealed G1 Weird Wolf, because I can't find one.
Oh, so we haven't told this story in a while.
That's just your Duran torture device, right?
Yeah.
Well, it was. Now, did you end up getting? Is the KO one that you have? Is that the same one? Like, did you end up getting it from Aaron? I think, or did I sell it to you, or did you get your own KO?
No, you brought yours that time to the meetup, and I passed on it because you wanted way too much. So I ended up spending about the same price to get it about 3 months later, because you already sold it that time.
Yeah. So, but you got it from somebody else. I couldn't remember if I ended up selling it to you or if.
No, I didn't buy. I bought it from a store, I believe. Well, eBay store. So.
Okay, but yeah. So Duran is the same way, where he loves Weird Wolf, and his gold, grail is a sealed mitten box, Weird Wolf or whatever, right? And so when we went to TFCon. Was it 2018 maybe? I can't remember what it was. But that Weird Wolf that I had, I gave to Aaron to try to sell at his booth or whatever. So he put this up, and it looked like it was a legit Weird Wolf, right? And so Duran comes over to his booth and he's just like, "Oh my god, I finally found it!" And we had to tell him that no, this is a knockoff.
Did you know him yet?
No, not as well. I knew Duran. I had met him a couple years ago and all that, but I wasn't on the show yet at that point. And so, yeah, I felt so bad though. And so then I was thinking, oh, I should just keep this and just set it out at random vendor booths every show that he goes to.
Put a sticky note on it that says 100% totally real. Oh, so evil.
So, anyway. All right, well, I guess with that, does anyone have anything else to add, or we good?
Christian?
Stand-ins are all right in your own collection. Just don't get all uppity about it.
Paul.
I mean, I feel like I kind of finalized this, but ultimately, don't buy Hot Link and pretend it's Skywarp. It's not, okay, guys? Just don't. Especially once the show comes out, you're gonna feel like a real Dumbo. So don't do it.
It's your own collection. Collect however you want, but don't go Hot Link, Skylink, or Skywarp, right?
Or just don't tell me.
I just think it would be amazing if people just start pinging Paul on Facebook and Twitter or whatever. It's hey, look at this fantastic Skywarp.
I deserve it.
Just link it to him and be like, it's happening.
I deserve it if it happens. Okay, I'll take my punishment for being.
It's kind of like the Grail episode too, right?
Well, is Skywarp a Grail?
It is now.
We gotta revisit that Grail topic next year. It's just is it all we do is we just show pictures of things. Is it a Grail? Is it a Grail? Is it a Grail?
Oh boy. Okay. All right. Tomorrow night we are going to have microcasters on the Facebook page. It is at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. We are reviewing. Who are we reviewing, Christian?
Hoist.
So Earthrise Hoist.
I'll be sick again. I'm gonna call in sick.
Don't you got something going on, Sean?
Yeah.
Hmm.
What was it? I think a baby. Another baby? Yeah. Probably a baby.
Woo!
Yep, baby.
So
Very cool.
Yeah,
It could be happening right now.
Sure, not.
But
I just want to see like one of your kids like bust into the room and be like,
it's
"Dad, it's happening!"
happening.
Oh boy.
Well, congrats, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
I'm
then,
gonna name him Megatron.
Joke.
there you go.
Name him Hot Link.
Yeah, Hot Link. First name Hot, middle name Link.
First name Skywarp, middle name Hot Link,
No.
last name Scream.
And then I think Rob's gonna have Ash My Wallet on Wednesday night. That's gonna be on YouTube 9:30, 8:30 Central. And then of course Cut the Tape. I think last week Rick broke something, so that's always fun to watch. And I guess that's it. So thank you everyone for what's that?
There'll be another episode of TF Talk News probably Sunday.
There you go, TF
Hopefully.
Talk News. So now that it's TF Talk News, is it going to be weekly? When you took the weekly out of the name?
It wasn't taking the name out; it was taking out all the fucking other people that made it possible. Which I love having other people on the show. That was. I don't want it to be just one person talking, but
Well, when that person
logistics.
Scream, you don't need anybody else.
Yeah, I mean he's tough to deal with, but he gets the job done.
He does.
And if you like what we do, consider supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/TFYLP. Tiers from $1 on up. And it sounds like, I guess, we're going to have a special after hours where Christian's going to tell us stories. So we got to do this now. You said it on the show, so.
I'm going to do it. Get ready.
So,
You haven't done it yet?
anyway.
It's already
And I guess
recorded.
that's it. So thanks, everyone. Have a good night.